Your pay has gone up, but your rent and groceries have climbed even faster. So why does it feel like you are losing ground, no matter how hard you work? Since 2020, household costs have soared nearly 30%, leaving 24% of workers living paycheck to paycheck. Prices rise, wages lag, and your money quietly loses its power. What is really behind this silent theft? And could there be a way out you have never considered? A single envelope changes everything. The rent notice sits on the kitchen table, numbers scrawled in bold, a 30% increase, effective next month. For millions of renters, this is not a warning, it is a deadline. In cities like Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Houston, rent has climbed faster than paychecks can keep up. One Milwaukee parent, already working 2 jobs, now faces a choice between paying the new rent or cutting out her daughter's after-school program. The story repeats across the country, rent up by nearly a third since 2020, while wages have only managed a 27% rise. The gap is not just a matter of numbers, it is a growing sense of fragility. Every month, 24% of households find themselves living paycheck to paycheck, with little left after covering the basics. A Brooklyn renter, whose groceries have gone up 30%, now relies on credit cards just to bridge the gap between paydays. Emergency savings, once a cushion, have thinned or disappeared entirely. The anxiety is not abstract, it is the daily calculation of what can be skipped, who can be paid late, and how long the math can hold. For many, the dream of stability feels out of reach. The rent notice is just the latest reminder that even as paychecks grow, the cost of staying afloat rises faster. Behind every statistic is a family, a kitchen table, and a stack of bills that never seems to shrink. A shopping cart once filled for $100 now costs $130. The difference is not just numbers on a receipt, it is a slow rearrangement of daily life. In Milwaukee, a parent stands in the cereal aisle, calculator in hand, scanning the shelves for store brands and sale tags. Name brands slip out of reach, replaced by generics. The box of strawberries is left behind, and the family pack of chicken becomes beans and rice for another week. This story repeats in cities and suburbs across the country. 2/3 of households report cooking at home more often, not out of choice, but necessity. Takeout nights are rare. The dinner table feels the pinch, with meals planned around what is on sale, not what is wanted. Shoppers time their trips to coincide with weekly discounts, and loyalty cards are swiped with a new sense of urgency. Bulk buying has become a strategy for nearly a third of families, stretching every dollar as far as it will go. The weekly grocery run has turned into a test of resourcefulness. 57% of people say they are chasing sales more actively, and over half are cutting out non-essentials, snacks, desserts, even household cleaners. For many, tracking spending on budgeting apps is no longer optional. Each swipe at the register is a reminder. The same paycheck covers less. The cart is lighter, but the cost is heavier, reshaping routines and habits one shopping trip at a time. Cargo ships stacked up at ports, their containers unmoved for weeks, became a common sight in 2021. Global supply chains, once invisible to most shoppers, suddenly made headlines as everything from microchips to breakfast cereal grew harder to find. The ripple effects of these bottlenecks spread quickly, pushing up costs for manufacturers and, in turn, for families at the checkout line. Shipping rates from Asia to the US West Coast soared to nearly 5 times their pre-pandemic average, and the delays meant that even basic goods arrived late or not at all. Commodity prices swung wildly. Cocoa, a staple for chocolate makers, jumped from $2,000 to $12,000 per metric ton between 2022 and 2025. For grocers and bakeries, this meant higher costs that were passed along to consumers, sometimes overnight. Coffee, wheat, and cooking oil followed similar patterns, their prices driven not just by demand, but by droughts, floods, and shifting trade policies far from American kitchens. These pressures did not just hit luxury items. Everyday essentials, bread, eggs, and milk became more expensive as the cost of raw materials and transport climbed. Even when goods did reach store shelves, they often cost more or came in smaller packages, a phenomenon known as shrinkflation. Supply disruptions and commodity volatility turned routine shopping into a guessing game, where prices could change from one week to the next. For many, it felt like the world's problems were landing right in their own carts and pantries. The cost of having a place to live has soared far beyond what most families can manage. Since 2019, the median home price in the United States has climbed 38%, landing at $439,450 in 2025. For many, the idea of buying a home now feels like chasing a moving target. In cities like Houston and New York, the share of homes affordable to the average earner has dropped from more than half to just over a quarter. Even those who managed to buy before the surge are feeling the squeeze. Mortgage payments are up by hundreds of dollars a month, and property insurance has jumped 22%. Refinancing, once a way to find relief, is out of reach for most. For renters, the dream of ownership has faded into the background. But the struggle does not end with rent. As housing eats up more of each paycheck, people are turning to debt just to cover the basics. Average credit card balances have risen 22% since 2019, with younger households carrying the fastest growing debt loads. Payday loans, buy now, pay later plans, and home equity lines of credit have become lifelines for families trying to bridge the gap between paydays and bills. Less than 45% of wage-earning households can cover an emergency expense, down from more than half just a few years ago. The result is a cycle that is hard to escape as housing and debt burdens grow, savings shrink, and the risk of falling behind grows with each passing month. Charts tracking home prices and debt balances tell the story in stark numbers, but behind every line on those graphs is a family recalculating what is possible. The old safety nets, emergency funds, credit cards, even help from relatives are stretched thin. Traditional ways of getting ahead no longer offer the protection they once did, leaving many to wonder what options are left when the system keeps moving the finish line. Bitcoin's design stops at exactly 21 million coins. No central bank, no government, no committee can ever create more. This built-in scarcity stands in sharp contrast to paper money, which can be printed at will. Ethereum takes a different approach, letting developers write code that controls how money moves, enabling programmable contracts that execute automatically without banks or middlemen. For some, these are not just technical features, they are lifelines. In Lagos, an electronics importer faced a currency that lost value overnight and a banking system that made sending money abroad slow and expensive. By switching to Bitcoin, he matched invoices and customs forms with blockchain transaction records, settling payments to Chinese suppliers in minutes instead of days. The fees dropped from nearly 10% to a fraction, and the risk of Naira devaluation was sidestepped entirely. Scarcity and programmability are not just buzzwords. They have become real-world tools for protecting value and keeping businesses alive. Even as cryptocurrency offers a way out of inflation's grip, it brings its own hazards. In 2022, a software engineer in San Francisco lost access to $8 million in Bitcoin after misplacing a handwritten seed phrase, the only key to his digital wallet. There was no bank, no help desk, no second chances. Stories like his are not rare. Billions in crypto have vanished forever due to forgotten passwords or lost hardware. Meanwhile, the fight over who controls this new money has grown fierce. From 2021 to 2023, major U.S. banking groups spent millions lobbying Congress to restrict crypto adoption, citing fears of deposit flight and financial instability. The promise of independence comes with real risks and powerful opposition, reminding anyone tempted by digital assets that the path is neither simple nor safe. Every dollar you hold loses ground while new systems quietly reshape the future of money. In a world where inflation chips away at security, choosing how to store value is no longer abstract. It is survival. The next chapter in financial freedom is unwritten. What role will you play?